All right, so for this lesson, we want to focus on multiplying monomials. And, technically, you've been multiplying monomials since grade 3, when you first started learning about multiplication. 5 is a monomial, 3 is a monomial. So 5 times 3 equals 15. You're multiplying two monomials. So that said, most of what we're going to talk about will involve variables of some sort. But I want to start with, negative 5 times 3. Negative 5 is a monomial, 3 is a monomial. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Well, now I have negative 5x times 3, which the only difference is there's that x. So this can be thought of as negative 5 times x times 3. Negative 5 times x times 3. Well, we're multiplying three things together. You can think of it as three numbers, negative 5, x, and 3. Remember, x is a number. We just don't know. We just don't care what it is. But when you multiply numbers, you can multiply them in any order together. So in this case, it probably actually makes more sense to first think about what negative 5 times 3 is, which is negative 15. And then multiply that by x, so negative 15x. And so in practice, we tend to multiply the coefficients first and then the variables. Because really, we're just multiplying a whole bunch of numbers together. Remember, x, y, whatever. A variable is a number. We just either don't know what it is or we don't care what it is, but it's a number. And so next, if I look at negative 5x times negative 3x. Again, I can multiply this in any order I want. It's really negative 5 times an x times a 3 times another x. So I'm going to multiply the coefficients first. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And then I'm going to multiply my x's together. X times x is x squared. Now a common mistake is to think x times x is 2x. And so we write something like negative 15 times 2x or something like that. But x times x is x squared. X plus x is 2x. But x squared literally means x times itself. And that's what we're seeing, x times itself. So notice multiplying monomials can be quite quick. And so I'll look at a few more. I'll kind of build off this for a few more, then look at a couple different examples. OK, so continuing with this idea, making each example slightly more involved. I have negative 5x times 3y. So I have different variables. But first, I would do the coefficients. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And then look at my variables. I have x times y. They're different numbers. Like I said, I don't know or I don't care what they are, but they're different. And so what's x times y? Just xy. Remember, if you just look at my answer here, this literally means negative 15 times x times y. And that's what we're seeing here. Negative 15 times x times y. It's just simplified. And so what if I look at the second last one here of this first set? Multiply negative 5 and 3. Again, negative 15. In this case, I have an x times an x, so that's x squared. And then I have a lonely y, so just times y here. I can write this in any order. By general convention, we tend to put the variables in alphabetical order. But in this case, only the x has the power of 2. And finally, last one of these sort of similar examples. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And in this case, I go x times x, which is x squared. And then y times y, which is y squared. So hopefully, as we look at all 6 of these together, we realize there's a nice progression between them. In the end, it all comes down to just, when you're multiplying, you can multiply in any order you want. And so we tend to multiply the coefficients first and then different variables together. All right, so lastly, just 2 different examples, not so similar to the previous ones. And each of these, we have 3 monomials we're multiplying together. But just like if you're multiplying 3, 2 times 3 times 4 together, you'd probably go 2 times 3 first to get 6, and then times by 4. But you don't have to. You go 3 times 4 first. You could go 2 times 4 first and then multiply by 3. The order doesn't matter. But in general, you probably just go from left to right. And that's what I'm going to do, unless I see a reason why it's easier to do it in a different order. So I'm going to focus on these 2 first. Or I could focus on all the coefficients first. Lots of choices. OK, maybe actually I'll focus on all the coefficients first. So negative 2 times negative 10 is 20, times 3 is 60. So all my coefficients multiplied together make 60. Then my x's, I have x times x, so that's x squared. And then I have, again, this lonely y. There we go. So it didn't really make much of a difference there being 3 monomials together. So for my last one, again, I'll look at my coefficients first. So negative 4 times 3 is negative 12 times a half. Well, timesing a half, you could literally make it look like a couple fractions, but multiplying by half is the same as dividing by 2. Finding half of a number is the same as dividing a number by 2, cutting it in half. So negative 12 times a half is negative 6. So all my coefficients together are negative 6. Now my variables. Let's look at a. I got a times a squared. So I have a times a, because this means a times a. So I have a times a times a. I have 3 a's all being multiplied to each other. And lastly, my b. So b times b is b squared. All good.